Kathy Engelbert, in this long drawn-out article, goes on and gives herself credit for why the WNBA has finally entered some type of mainstream conversation.
The numbers don't lie, but apparently commissioners do. While Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are single-handedly dragging the WNBA from the depths of irrelevance into primetime glory, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is out here taking victory laps like she personally taught Clark how to shoot threes from the logo. The audacity is breathtaking. The delusion is Olympic level, and the credit stealing is so blatant it makes corporate executives blush.
The Indiana Fever's matchup on Friday versus the Sun drew 851,000 viewers, becoming the most viewed WNBA game on ION this season despite Caitlin Clark's absence.
Let's start with the facts that would make a mathematician weep tears of joy. The Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky matchup on May 17, 2025 averaged 2.7 million viewers on ABC. That's not just a number. That's a cultural earthquake that registered on television Richter scales across America. This game peaked at 3.1 million viewers, making it the most watched WNBA regular season game in 25 years. 25 years. That's longer than some of these players have been alive, and yet here comes Engelbert, strutting around like she discovered fire.
It seems like the Indiana Fever are still having big numbers, according to ION, even when Caitlin Clark is off the floor. And honestly, it looks like the trajectory of the viewership for the WNBA in its entirety is starting to go in the right direction. We're about to get into it, but before we do that, y'all make sure y'all hit the thumbs up for your boy.
But here's where the story gets juicier than a reality TV show finale. This wasn't some magical confluence of perfect timing and league-wide excellence. This was the Caitlin Clark Show, plain and simple. 21 out of 23 games that topped 1 million viewers last season featured Clark and the Fever. Let that sink in for a moment. 21 out of 23. That's not a coincidence. That's a phenomenon with a name, address, and jersey number 22.
Anyone who watches the WNBA can see that they do not want Caitlin Clark to succeed. They want the New York Liberty to be the team that is the face of the organization.
Caitlin Clark is essentially getting blackballed in the WNBA.
And she was a rookie. And it's infuriating. Right now, she's injured. If she's not playing, they're losing crazy amounts of money. And so it's crazy to me that the league itself and everyone involved at the higher-ups would do these things to sabotage the Indiana Fever.
Meanwhile, Engelbert is out here giving interviews like she's the mastermind behind a carefully orchestrated business strategy. She tells reporters about preparing for this moment for many years and how the league has been in a huge business transformation. Business transformation? Lady, the only transformation happening here is Caitlin Clark transforming empty arenas into sold-out spectacles while you watch from the sidelines with a clipboard pretending you called the plays.
Build that confidence in a business model that's going to work and is sustainable, which is what I've been brought in to do. It's you see the benefits of that, the returns of that, and then you see, an athlete, a generational athlete like Caitlin. I analogize it to the Tiger Woods effect in golf, and just her followership, and then the rivalry she came in with against Angel Reese and LSU, Iowa, and now Paige Becker's coming in from UConn off a championship. So. But we had great players for for a couple decades, but now I think with social media, with NIL, with them having brands when they come in and followership, and just the quality of the game, I can't say enough about that too.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe. The contrast is so stark, it's almost comedic. While Clark's preseason exhibition game against Brazil at Iowa averaged 1.3 million viewers, numbers that only 2 NBA preseason games since 2010 have matched, other WNBA games are pulling in audiences that wouldn't fill a high school gymnasium's worth of interest. But does Engelbert acknowledge this disparity? Does she give credit where credit is due? Not a chance. Instead, she's busy talking about capital inflows and corporate partners stepping up, as if Fortune 500 companies suddenly developed a conscience about women's sports rather than recognizing a marketing goldmine when they see one. These corporations aren't investing in the WNBA's business model. They're investing in the Caitlin Clark experience. They're buying stock in a singular talent who can pack arenas and crash streaming servers with the ease of a seasoned magician pulling rabbits from hats. The 2025 WNBA draft provides another perfect example of this delusion in action. The draft drew 1.25 million viewers, which sounds impressive until you realize it was the second highest viewership in the event's history. What was the first? The 2024 draft when Clark was selected, which pulled in 2.45 million viewers. See the pattern here? Clark's draft was nearly twice as popular as this year's version, and yet Engelbert probably has that 2024 number framed in her office with a little plaque that says, "My achievement."
But the faith is who the people pick. It don't matter what stats or what you talking about. Most watched games since Caitlin Clark has entered the league, most of the top 15 games is all because of Caitlin. All because of Caitlin. That's how you know who's the face. Who sells the most? Who jersey sells the most? Who is people talking about the most? That's how you find out who the face is, not who got the best numbers. That doesn't mean anything. When one person plays and ticket prices shoot up, and then when they don't play, ticket prices plummet, that's the face.
Let's talk about those attendance figures that have Engelbert chest thumping like a silverback gorilla who just discovered fire. The 2025 opening weekend saw 89% of arenas near full capacity, with an average attendance of 8,487 across all 8 games, representing a 36.7% increase from the previous year. Sounds impressive, right? But dig deeper and you'll find that the Fever Sky game was the crown jewel, while other matchups were padding these statistics like a resume from someone who counts proficient in Microsoft Word as a technical skill. The Golden State Valkyries debut sold out Chase Center, which holds 18,064 people. But let's be honest, that's debut fever, not sustainable interest. Give it a few games without Clark on the opposing roster, and you'll see attendance numbers that make funeral parlors look like Taylor Swift concerts. But Engelbert will probably claim credit for that sellout too, as if her business acumen personally convinced 18,000 people to buy tickets. What's truly infuriating is how Engelbert stands by while the very player driving her success gets bulldozed by league politics and player drama. Clark gets flagrant fouled by Angel Reese, faces hateful comments from fans, and endures constant scrutiny while carrying the entire league's marketing department on her shoulders. And where's Engelbert? Probably in some boardroom explaining to investors how her four-pronged media strategy is responsible for numbers that Clark generated by simply existing on a basketball court.
But Kathy Engelbert, in her naivete or in her delusion, she takes credit for it. Instead of saying it's because of Caitlin Clark, instead of saying it's because of the person from Iowa, instead of saying it was because of her, Kathy says, "Oh, it's all me. My strategy, my plan, my 3 pillars."
The commissioner talks about multidimensional stakeholder groups and managing billionaire owners, celebrity players, and network executives as if she's conducting a symphony orchestra. But let's be clear about what's really happening here. Clark is the entire orchestra, the conductor, the venue, and the audience, while Engelbert is the person selling overpriced programs in the lobby, taking credit for the music. ESPN viewership climbed 170% to 1.2 million per game. Teams sold 400,000 tickets in 1 month, and 21 games garnered more than 1 million viewers each, with 18 of those featuring the Indiana Fever. 18 out of 21. If that doesn't scream Caitlin Clark effect, then Engelbert needs her hearing checked along with her reality perception. The WNBA's first capital raise totaled $75 million, with a valuation of $1 billion, according to sources with knowledge of the transaction. Engelbert calls this the largest ever capital raise for a women's sports property and acts like she negotiated it with the business acumen of Warren Buffett. But here's the truth that would make a lie detector explode. Investors aren't throwing money at Engelbert's business model. They're betting on Clark's star power to continue generating revenue that makes accountants weep tears of joy. Corporate sponsors like Nike, Clark's $28 million endorsement deal, and State Farm have explicitly linked their investments to her reach, with one Fortune 500 executive admitting, "We're buying into the Caitlin Clark experience, not the WNBA's business model."
What if I told you a rookie could generate nearly $1 billion for an entire sports league? The answer? Caitlin Clark herself. Caitlin isn't just playing basketball. She's transforming the WNBA. In 2025 alone, she's projected to contribute nearly $1 billion to the league's economy, accounting for over a quarter of its total activity. The Indiana Fever's attendance has actually skyrocketed to an average of just over 17,000 fans per game, which is actually more than the average of the Indiana Pacers. Anytime Caitlin Clark is on TV, it's an absolute media sensation. Just one of her preseason games drew more than 1.3 million viewers. Merchandise sales have surged by 243%, and she just signed a $28 million deal with.
Even Engelbert tacitly acknowledged this dynamic, saying that Clark is the most popular athlete in America and a key driver of the league's 170% ESPN viewership increase. The upcoming media rights deal, reportedly worth $2.2 billion across 11 years, has Engelbert talking about historic and significant step-forward opportunities. But let's not kid ourselves about what's driving those negotiations. Network executives aren't salivating over Engelbert's spreadsheets. They're calculating how many Caitlin Clark games they can broadcast and how much advertising revenue they can generate from audiences who show up specifically to watch one player work magic on hardwood. Meanwhile, other WNBA players are struggling to fill arenas that look like abandoned shopping malls during Black Friday sales. Angel Reese's preseason game drew crowds so sparse you could hear individual conversations from the nosebleed seats. Ticket prices were so low, they competed with vending machine prices, and still, nobody showed up. But does Engelbert address this massive disparity in drawing power? Does she acknowledge that her league has a superstar problem where one player is carrying everyone else's career? Absolutely not. Instead, she talks about expansion to 16 teams and predicts the league will reach 20, as if demand exists beyond Clark's gravitational pull. She expects one team to become a $1 billion franchise and predicts $500 million will become the average team valuation. These projections sound impressive until you realize they're built on the assumption that the Caitlin Clark phenomenon is sustainable across multiple teams and markets.
We just had this record-breaking game between the Indiana Fever and the Brazilian national team, a preseason game that averaged 1.3 million viewers on ESPN. And then our draft was the second most viewed ever, the most viewed compared to MLB and NHL in their history. So we're seeing the returns of that investment in a big way, and the values of our teams going up. So that capital raise, when you saw the people that came and invested, I think gave confidence to all of our owners to invest in their teams, which is driving their team values up. So I think it's, a bit of a confidence builder. And, capital and valuation is all about confidence in the business and what you're building here. And
the most frustrating part of this entire situation is watching Engelbert bask in reflected glory while failing to protect the very asset that's generating her success. Clark faces criticism, physical play that borders on targeting, and media scrutiny that would break lesser mortals, all while Engelbert issues generic statements about looking into matters, rather than providing the leadership protection that superstars deserve. Engelbert attributes the league's success to her four-pronged approach: corporate partnerships, media diversification, expansion, and digital transformation. While these initiatives have yielded incremental gains, like the WNBA app's 390% download increase post-Deloitte overhaul, they pale next to Clark's impact. For instance, the Golden State Valkyries' 2025 expansion, touted as a triumph, sold out Chase Center once, when Clark's Fever visited. Similarly, Engelbert's emphasis on lifestyle viewers and culture sports intersections rings hollow when 72% of new fans polled cited Clark as their primary reason for tuning in.
Final WNBA regular season viewership, all rated networks. Caitlin Clark games, 1.178 million. All other games not featuring Caitlin Clark, 394,000. But Ben, this is just a Twitter person. How am I supposed to take this at face? Fair point, folks, but you know I'll never come and lie to you. I'm not Kathy Engelbert. I'm not Monica McNutt. I come here trying to tell you the truth. For the regular season, this is a Forbes article straight out of Forbes with no horse in the race, no need to pull the wool over my eye. For the regular season, nationally televised WNBA games average 657,000 viewers, the highest audience in 24 seasons.
Despite generating outsized revenue, Clark's rookie salary remains $76,535, a figure negotiated in 2020 under Engelbert's tenure. This disparity highlights the league's exploitation of its top asset. While Clark's jerseys outsold all other players combined by 3-1, she earns less than 1% of the revenue she generates. Engelbert defends this structure by citing the 2020 CBA, but critics argue her refusal to renegotiate terms mid-deal, as the NBA did during its 2016 cap spike, reflects a failure to adapt to Clark's transformative impact. Clark's rookie season has been marred by overt targeting, 12 flagrant fouls through May 2025, the most against any player, and racist, misogynistic online abuse. Engelbert's initial refusal to condemn this behavior, comparing the Clark-Reese rivalry to Bird vs. Magic, drew fierce backlash from players and the WNBPA, which accused her of prioritizing business optics over player safety. Only after public pressure did Engelbert issue a belated statement against hate, But players note she still hasn't implemented stronger anti-harassment protocols. Engelbert's legacy won't be turning around the WNBA's business. It will be standing on the sidelines while Caitlin Clark turned around the WNBA's business and taking credit for the turnaround. She's like someone claiming responsibility for a successful restaurant when their only contribution was unlocking the door for the celebrity chef who actually cooked the food, served the customers, and generated the 5-star reviews.
The Indy Star collected data from Ticketmaster and found that selected ticket prices for Clark's future matchups against the Sun, Mystics, and Sky, in which she is expected to play, increased by as much as 366%. The most expensive ticket in Section 120 for Friday's contest against the Sun cost $86.25. When Indiana hosts the Sun June 17th, a ticket in the same section will cost $140.30, a 62.7% increase.
The commissioner expects to stay on for at least 3 more years, which means 3 more years of watching her take victory laps around a track that Clark built, paved, and maintains. 3 more years of hearing about strategic initiatives and business transformations when the only transformation that matters is the one happening every time Clark steps onto a basketball court and turns spectators into believers. So here's the truth that Engelbert needs to hear, but probably never will. Her job isn't creating the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, it's protecting it, nurturing it, and acknowledging it. Because without Clark, those billion-dollar valuations become monopoly money. Those record viewership numbers become footnotes in sports history, and that $75 million capital raise becomes the most expensive mistake investors ever made in women's sports. The WNBA doesn't need Engelbert to take credit for Caitlin Clark's success. It needs her to ensure that success continues flourishing despite the obstacles, the criticism, and the players who mistake bullying for competition. Until that happens, watching Engelbert claim responsibility for Clark's achievements will remain more entertaining than most WNBA games not featuring the Indiana Fever.